Hello, good afternoon, and welcome. It is Monday, December 8th, 2025. Counting down the days till the end of the year. So welcome or welcome back. I don't see anybody here right now, so I'll just chat for a minute until I see somebody hop on. Let's see, what do I need here? Okay, I look to see if I need something to brighten up my face a little bit, so I need some lipstick. So how's your week going? It is very cold here in Northeast Ohio. We've got snow on the ground, but at least it's not snowing, and the sun is shining. So that is a good thing. Okay, this does say that I'm live. And hello, Rose. And Shirley is here. Welcome to both of you. Rose, what are you telling me? You were inspired after last week's class, working on your Christmas cards. I used the white on white tone and the little dots on them. Awesome. Awesome. That makes my heart happy when I've inspired you to do something that I've showed you how to do. I hope you get the same vibe today. I'm going to flip things up a little bit. First of all, let me put my contact information up here. If you see something you would like to order, you can let me know, or there is my online store. So what I'm going to do today is, let's see if everything's making sure my it looks like I'm talking different than my mouth is going or whatever. Anyway, I'm going to show you some samples that I made just this morning, and then I'm going to do the little demonstration because I think it's just so amazing. It's something I have not done in a long time, and if you saw the preview there, it said I'm working with Vellum, and yay, Vellum has come back after a couple years away. We used to have packs of it in 8.5 by 11. Now we have it in 12 by 12. Whoops, let's slip down to my desk so you can see what I'm doing. It comes in 12 by 12, and it is called Vellum Specialty Paper. I'm sorry I don't have the price on here. I should have looked it up before I got all my stuff hooked up here. It is a thick, like a cardstock. We used to call it cardstock vellum. And vellum means it's transparent. Let me pull a piece out here. You can see through it, but you can't see through it, if you get my drift there. Let's pull that out. Okay, it doesn't want to come out of there. So I've got it in a different packaging. Okay. So it's somewhat transparent. You can see my hand underneath there. So it's not like a window sheet, but it also is non-porous. So you'll have to use a different ink pad for it that dries very quickly and will not smear. And that happens to be a stays-on ink pad. So let's not struggle with that anymore and put it back in here this way. I think this is something like $12, but it's 12 by 12. You typically use a smaller portion of it on your card. It's not going to be made into a full card base. So that is pretty cool. So let me show you the samples first, and then I will finish up with the demo part. Okay, I think this was the first one that I did. And you can run vellum through an embossing folder, and the pressure on it will kind of give you some white tips. Now keep that in mind because that's what I'm going to kind of show you in a different way. Hello, Beachcomber Noni, or Nani, welcome. You must be where it's warm. So welcome to kind of frigid cold Northeast Ohio. So this is through the wreath embossing folder, and then I folded it under. The other thing with vellum is, because it's somewhat transparent, it's very sensitive if you put adhesive back there, because it'll show through. So Beachcomber, introduce yourself and tell us where you're from. I'm excited that somebody new is here. So, and then I just decorated it easily with this, and that is on, the paper I used was the light side of our two-tone Old Olive. So that's that one. So keep that technique in mind, that you can use it with an embossing folder. Here is another one. Now this one I was inspired by one of our concept artists who works for Stampin' Up. And this is this one. She used, where'd my brain go? She used Versamark on our new lovely linen background stamp, embossed it in white embossing powder, and then cut it out with die cut. Okay, this is a small strip of what it looks like. Oop, let's get under here. That it looks like the linen. Where's my camera? Here we go. And that's just very simple. Just a simple congratulations. Nothing really outstanding, but it has a lot of texture because it's been embossed and then cut out with one of the dies. Forget which one I used on that one. So that is kind of technique number 2. Okay, here's another one that if your designer paper is bright and has a lot of detail to it, then go ahead and stamp on a piece of vellum. Let's see, what's going on here? There we go. Stamp on a piece of vellum, and I tore this across the bottom, and actually this is loose on here, and I put just dots of adhesive behind the Merry Christmas. And then because this was loose up here, I put some of those little embellishments up there to look like berries. So again, very simple. It could have ribbon on it, it could have a lot more. I'm just showing you some techniques that you can think about that will make it very, unique. Because the vellum is a unique kind of cardstock. So there's that one. This one is a more non-traditional card. Again, stamped, see that goes all the way under there, stamped with that wonderful Merry Christmas that we've got. And then I took my pokey tool from my take a pick tool and poked a hole and then put that on here like this. So this one opens this way, and then pulled some of this ribbon through. So it's modern, not traditional, and there's no adhesive on this at all. Okay, the only adhesive is to glue that paper down. And then the ribbon is holding it down, or the, excuse me, the twine is holding it down. And then this last one to show you is with the washi tape that we have, and I put that on a piece of vellum and then cut it out with, what are these dies? The Textured Notes dies, and just put that on there with a simple bow. That can be embellished with a sentiment, which I didn't put on there, but it just showing another way of using the vellum. On this one, I adhered it with very strategically putting I was up very late last night. I'm tired. Mini glue dots. So I apologize for that. It's been kind of crazy around here. So I put glue dots where I knew they would not show through. So that lifts up in some places and then, but it's glued down, and it's well glued down, so that's not a problem. So those are the 5 cards that I typically wait until the end to show you. But I wanted to do this one last because I think it is so cool. I have not done this technique for a long time. I don't know what its name is, but I will tell you what I'm going to use with it. So I'm getting away from Christmas, and I'm using this big floral from Gallery Blooms. And that is a suite that is on page 55 in the annual catalog. And it starts, where does it start? Okay, it starts here basically on page 52 with Beautiful Gallery Suite. It's very elegant. I guess that's maybe the best I can say about it. It's just an elegant suite of products. There are 2 in the whole suite, and the whole suite is expensive, but you don't have to get the whole suite, of course. But there are two stamp sets, and they are photopolymer. We've got 2 sets of dies. We've got an embossing folder. We've got some embellishments here that are called, what are those called? Pressed flower motifs. This beautiful paper and some ribbon. So there is a lot in this suite of products. I'm only going to use a little bit from this in the Gallery Blooms, a piece of the paper, and one of those sentiments from here. Just because I want to show you the simplicity of this. So here is the Gallery Blooms paper. I know I've used it before when the catalog first came out back in May. And it is just stunning. More like vintage florals. Very serene. Find a space to put that. Okay, here is the Beautiful Motifs stamp set. So we've got Gallery Blooms stamp set, Beautiful Motifs, with a couple little backgrounds, and that's where the sentiments are. We've got the Damask embossing folder, and this is a traditional size. It's not one of the 3Ds. So that's that, and I've used that. I think that's it that I'm going to be featuring today. And so that's the rest of the paper. So are you ready to be wowed? Okay, and then these are the textured notes dies that are just kind of standalone dies with all of these wonderful little designs on the outside. They're great. Okay. So let me know, have you used Vellum a lot, or is it just something that you might have and you don't use it? I remember way back in the day, and I'm kind of maybe giving away my age, Vellum used to be very, very thin when we but when we sent airmail. Remember airmail? Okay, I'm really dating myself there. Because it was based on weight to put something in the mail for airmail. Now, everything just goes a lot faster. But this is a cardstock thicker vellum. Okay, I am going to take a piece of this. Let's get this out of the way and a little bit of a glare. I've already run a piece of the designer paper through the Damask embossing folder. And I will mount that on a piece of card base of vanilla. I'm going to use Very Vanilla. And this is 8.5 by 5.5 scored at 4.25. And that will go on there like that. It will cover up the full card base. Yes, Rose, you're going to want to get it out after this. I guarantee it. So let's get that inspiration going. That's exciting. Okay, so I'm going to stamp this large floral bloom. And because I'm using photopolymer, and just a reminder, all of our stamps going forward are photopolymer. There's no cushion there. So you need something, a mouse pad. This is our piercing pad to give you that cushion that you need when you stamp. Now this is a hard or rubber, but it will give you the cushion that you need to get a good impression from your stamps. And this one has a lot of detail to it, so that's also important to get that that cushion underneath. Hey Nancy, welcome back. We need to talk some night. I miss our chats a little bit. All right, so I have a piece of the vellum cut out with the textured notes. I'm using Stays On. I have not used this in a long time. I had to re-ink this, pull out my Stays On cleaner, and make sure that it was going to work before I pulled all this together today. You need Stays On because it is quick drying and it will not smear. And the reason for that is, as I said at the beginning, this is not porous. This does not absorb ink. The ink is going to lay right on top of that vellum. And by having it dry very quickly, it will dry very quickly on your stamp as well. Now, I have cleaned this because I've already stamped a couple of these. I've cleaned this, and you know that when you use photopolymer, most of the time you're going to stain your stamps a little bit. The Stays On will definitely stain it and leave it black. I did, oops, I got one of those little snowballs from last week. I did this one and cleaned it with the Stays On cleaner, and it cleaned it up pretty quickly, pretty easily. This is for solvent inks. Keep out of reach of children. Use in a well-ventilated area because there is an odor to it. There's also an odor to this too. This stamp pad comes with this plastic insert that I put some sticky in there to make sure that that covers and keeps that ink pad covered, because it will dry out. So you want to make sure that you have a refill for that. So let's move along here. Okay, so I'm going to ink this up well. And I did one of these a little bit earlier, and then I didn't stamp it immediately. So I'm getting all that ink on there. And then, of course, we do want to store our stamp pads upside down anyway to keep that ink to the top. Now I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to go a little bit more to the left so I can get a sentiment on here and really give that a good press. And hopefully it will do what I want it to do. And it's going to kind of peel away because it's not sticky. You could never emboss with it, but it will peel away. Oh, yay. Good image on there. So I'm going to just set that aside for a minute and go ahead and clean this. It's kind of like an alcohol-y type cleanser or cleaner in here. So you can see how that's bringing up the black and really getting into the grooves on that, because there are a lot of little grooves on this stamp. And then this is the applicator for it. So I'm going to take, rather than use my chamois, because I don't want to get that all black, I'm just going to use an old little microfiber thing that I've got here and just kind of rub that off. And again, it's not going to get it all back to clear white, unless I probably spend a little bit more time pulling that off of there. But at least I got the basic layer of ink off of there. And you know, with photopolymer, you can also put your stamps under the water in the sink, which you couldn't do with the red rubber, and probably really give that a better scrub. I know I have one customer who she wants her stamps to be pristine and back to looking white again, and she'll clean them up. So that's what I'm going to do for now. That still did a pretty good job. But if you love your stamps, they're going to stain. Just make sure you clean them after each use, then go to another color. So we're good to go on that. This one was smaller, so it did clean up a little bit easier. And I'll just go back and do this again later. All right, now what am I going to do? Ooh, what am I going to do? I hope you're excited. Okay, I'm going to turn this over just to make sure there's no ink on there. And there is not, and that's one of the nice things about StazOn. It does not smear. You can use it on window sheets. You can use it on anything that's not porous. All right. Now, what am I going to do? I'm going to turn this over, grab my stylus tool. This one happens to come from the score pad that we have, and there are two tips on it, one a smaller and one a little bit larger. It's a ball type tip. And depending upon where you are doing this on your project, and there's a lot of detail here, as I said, you can flip back and forth between the two. So I'm going to start with my Pierce Mat or a mouse pad, anything that's going to give you a cushion underneath. You couldn't use it on a plain flat surface. I'm going to start, because these are larger images right here, with the larger ball tip, and in a circular motion, go around and I'm kind of a reverse embossing on this, and in the circular motion, that will kind of prevent you from actually poking through your vellum. Now let me turn this over so you see what it looks like. Oop, let's get back in the camera. And it's white. It's a stunning, stunning look, especially when you get it mounted on your cardstock. You can also use your Stampin' Blends to color from the back as well. But what is really fun about this is it's popping it out, it's giving it dimension on the front. So when somebody sees it, they're going to say, ooh, let me feel that. I want to feel what that looks like. You just stay inside the lines. We also have the StazOn in a saddle brown. That might be good for some other flowers. And then this one is the jet black. Okay. Now here's where I can flip to the smaller tip and get these smaller areas of the leaf back there. And then flip it back over again. Yes, I'm so glad we got Vellum back. I always thought vellum should be kind of a basic cardstock in your stash, and I was very disappointed when it went away, and now it's back. Okay, so this is the look that you get. I have already started one that's pretty much done. So I'm just going to finish this part now, just to save a little bit of time. So I'm flipping it over and then do this large floral image. So how many of you are totally ready for Christmas and you can sit back and relax? We're coming up on 2 weeks from Thursday. Which is also hard to believe. And I think I heard on the news that we are going to maybe have a white Christmas. We shall see. I like white Christmas as long as it's not on the streets and the roads. Okay, so there is, how many sheets in the pack? Good question, Rose. It has, I think 12. Yes, there are 12 by 12 sheets in there. And you can get a lot of cards out of that, especially with these smaller pieces. Or, you know, I don't let any of the scraps go to waste. I did this one as a little practice. Nancy, I'm kind of right there with you. And it was just a small piece that was left over. And, you know, that can end up going somewhere. I just don't know where yet. So when you look at it back on the front, make sure that you've got all the pieces. I think that one didn't get very much. And make sure that you got all the parts that you want to get. Now let me show you back this first card that I showed you that had been run through the embossing folder. That pressure from the embossing machine and the folder is what made this turn white. It's basically the same thing that I've done here. So embossing folders will do that. Let me give you a tip about embossing folders. Because it is a rather delicate piece of paper, put another piece of cardstock on top. It will still give you a good impression on your embossing on the folder, and then you still have a piece of cardstock that is embossed as well. That's what's really nice about it. But because it will tear, especially on the 3D embossing folders, like this one is. So you kind of have to watch out for that. But it just, I think it's just so stunning. And you can make simple cards, not have to do a lot with them, and people think that you're magic. All right, let's get this card together here. Okay, before I do that, let's stamp something very simple. You've been on my mind. That's a good one to go there in the corner. You grab a little block here. And as you saw in the samples that I showed you earlier, it takes embossing like gold or black. Okay, I could black emboss that, but I think I'm going to skip that for now because I want to finish this up. So let's go back to the Stays On. Turn it over and make sure that it does have a good impression on there. And then hold that down. Okay, so there we've got You've Been on My Mind. And maybe go ahead and clean that too, or at least get the fluid on there. I'll just let it sit on there, and that will start pulling that ink off. Let me look up something rather quickly here in the back. Okay, the Stays On is on page 131, 130 and 131, and the pad is $10.50, the refill is $7.50, and I would strongly suggest getting a refill at the same time because this will dry out quickly, and you want to keep it inked. And then the cleaner is $6. Okay, here was the one that I started, which I will come back and finish later. And I had an extra one of these in case I made a mistake. And here is the damask embossing folder. I think it's going the wrong direction, but it's kind of like a wallpaper. I don't think it really makes a lot of difference. So let's add some glue to this. Ooh, isn't that pretty there too? Ooh, yes, but I'm going to use that side. Okay, when you make, unless you want a border around it, when you're using the full size there, it goes on very easily. Okay, so now, how am I going to put that on there? I don't want to put any adhesive on any of these areas. And it's okay if it just kind of lays there. Because that's all popped up. There's a lot of dimension to that. I could put a little bit of adhesive here behind this, but I think what I'm going to do is add dimensionals back here because it curls up. As I said, it's a rather delicate paper, and it's okay that that does that. So I'm putting dimensionals back here. They will not be seen. And remember I said you could also use your Stampin' blends and color, and it gives you a very subtle look. I will show you that in a second from that sample that I already started. Or I guess I can do it on that one too. Got some little mini dimensionals here. We're here in the leaves. going to kind of put that in the middle there. And that holds that down enough so even if it pulls up a little bit here, it's okay. I think that's straight. Maybe not. If you don't press down right away, you can have some wiggle room with those dimensionals. And let's take this black and gold. This is from one of the suites in the Christmas. Oh, this is all twisted around here. Maybe the white and gold will work better. Tie a little bow. And just add that to the base of that. That was kind of a last minute decision. Not sure I really like it, but I think it needs that. That looks good. And grab a glue dot. Gonna kind of, where'd it go? Roll it a little bit. Well, it's there somewhere. Let's get another one. Roll it between my fingers, put it right there. And there we go. So there is that. And you saw all the earlier samples first this time instead of at the end. So there is our simple card, curled a little bit. And a lot of times when you, whoop, there's that glue dot, found its way right on my finger. Okay. But let me show you how that you can color this from behind. I do have a couple of Stampin' blends here to show you. This is a light Blackberry Bliss. I'm going to use the dark because even the dark will show up very light on the front. Okay, so this is the front. And you just go over where that white is. And it's a very subtle look. You can see it a little bit and you still have the white. So you do want to use a darker marker. The light one probably wouldn't even show up at all. So there you can see the difference. You can see that, back in the camera here, you can see that color showing through. So it's subtle, and then that's the one that's still the white. So if that's inspired you to go grab that vellum that you have hanging around in your stash, find a nice stamp that has a lot of texture to it, a line stamp, and get your, where'd it go? Get your tool here your embossing tool or scoring tool. It's a scoring tool, whatever you want, and see what you come up with. So I'll pull these others out here real quick again. This was the show of the day. And here we have the one with the embossing folder. Here's one with the washi tape. And the washi tape is what's on the vellum. Here we've got some embossing. No adhesive on here at all. Just pokey tool and add some twine there. A little piece with on a designer paper that is very kind of bold. And then this one was the inspiration from one of our not our artisans, but our concept artists at Stampin' Up. So there's a lot of texture to that too. So you can emboss on the vellum as well. I need a Stampin' Up. You know, Rose, I just made one for somebody else today. So I will give you a call a little bit later this evening, okay? And we'll talk about that. Sounds great. So that's it for today. Stay warm wherever you are, or if you're in a warm climate, stay cool. And I will, let's go back here a minute. So I will see you, and have a great rest of the week as we get closer to Christmas. Take care. Bye-bye.